The Kowloon Walled City Park captures many aspects of city's history and reflects the Chinese culture. Imperial officials formerly used this site as a garrison during the Qing dynasty. The users and stakeholders of the park include the government, visitors, general public. Owned by the local government, it is specifically managed by the Leisure and Cultural Services Department. Other stakeholders include the visitors and tourists. The Hong Kong Museum of Coastal Defense provides a display of various relics and weapons used in wars such as the Japanese invasion under the British colonization. It also has several galleries comprising of artifacts and stories, which comprehensively describe the history of defense of this territory. The users and stakeholders again include the government, the local visitors, and the tourists. The access to the Kowloon Walled City Park is open without any restrictions, so the general public can easily get in and pay a visit to the park. On the other hand, Hong Kong Museum of Coastal Defense also has an open access to the public, but the entry is allotted on tickets, which costs a nominal amount of $10 each. The government owns the Kowloon Walled City Park with its investment towards the heritage site, though the general public is welcomed to pay a visit, but as a responsible citizen, they need to follow the rules and regulations, like protecting the facilities inside the damage. Deliberate damage is strictly forbidden. They are also required to keep the environment clean at all times. These acts are ways to preserve and protect the heritage site. On the other hand, Hong Kong Museum of Coastal Defense can only be visited between 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. from Mondays to Wednesdays, and on Fridays and Saturdays, Sundays, and other public holidays, it is open from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Kowloon Walled City Park sits on the very site of the former Kowloon Walled City, remembered today as a haven of crime and debauchery. The site occupies a strategic point along the Kowloon Peninsula and has been used by the Chinese imperial officials since the 16th century. In 1841, when Hong Kong Island was ceded to Britain, Kowloon Walled City was already a garrison and was reinforced by the Chinese government. The fort's fate changed in 1898 when the new territories were leased to Britain for 99 years. Although the walled city remained Chinese territory by treaty, the following year their troops and officials were forced to vacate. Behind them, they left a powerful vacuum that was filled by criminals, and the garrison became a city within a city. Throughout the 20th century, fugitives and other criminals flocked to the lawless enclave. Beyond the reach of the law, the area mushroomed into a squalid maze of illegally constructed buildings where everything from drug trafficking and prostitution to unlicensed dentistry flourished in a labyrinth of dank, dark alleyways. In 1987, with the agreement of China, the colonial government finally took control of the no-go area, resettled its inhabitants, and replaced the slum with a park. Today, the Chinese-style park preserves traces of the walled city, most notably its Yamen, the imperial government administrative building. The Jiangnan garden style of the park also offers visitors a chance to appreciate the beauty of nature in a place where the darker side of human nature once flourished.
The Kowloon Walled City was originally a garrison town built by the Qing government in 1847 as a military outpost occupied by several hundred soldiers to reinforce the coastal defense of the region. The Yamen building was originally the administrative office of the Assistant Magistrate of Kowloon. The building is a three-hall structure. The middle hall was the office, while the rear block served as an officer's residence.
Le Yumen occupies a strategic position guarding the eastern approach to the Victoria Harbour. As early as 1844, barracks were built by the British at Saiwan to the south of the channel. However, with number of deaths of soldiers caused by severe epidemics in the area, the barracks were abandoned shortly afterwards. Although there had been many suggestions to build batteries at the Le Yuemun in the next 40 years, none was ever realized.
By 1885, in face of possible attacks from France and Russia, the British decided to construct batteries on a headland to south of the Le Yuemun Channel. Designed and built by the Royal Engineers, the redoubt was the core of the Le Yuemun fortifications. An area of 7,000 square meters was first dug up from the summit of the Le Yuemun headland. 18 casemates were then constructed to function as barrack rooms, magazines, shell store, and coal store. The structures were then concealed by earth. The construction was largely completed by 1887. The guns installed at Le Yuemun could be fired at different range to completely cover the approach to the Le Yuemun Channel. Here was the West Battery and the emplacement for 4.7-inch QF gun. In 1890, the Brennan Torpedo Station was installed at the shoreline of the Le Yuemun headland, which was believed that at that time to be the world's most powerful underwater weapons. Here is the example of the torpedoes.
On 8th December 1941, the Japanese launched their attacks on Hong Kong. After the fall of the new territories in Kowloon, the British forces immediately strengthened the defences at Le Yuemun to prevent the Japanese from crossing the Le Yuemun Channel from Devil's Peak. Although the defence forces managed to repulse several raids by the Japanese, they were eventually overwhelmed and the fort finally fell into the enemy's hands on 19th December. The fort no longer bore any defence significance in the post-war period and became a training ground for the British forces until 1987, when it was finally vacated.
In view of its historical significance and unique architectural feature, the former Urban Council decided in 1993 to conserve and develop the Le Yuemun Fort into a museum of coastal defense. With a budget of 300 million Hong Kong dollar, the Architectural Service Department (ASD) completed the architectural design and construction work. With such splendid architectural design, the ASD was awarded the Hong Kong Institute of Architects Annual Award, Silver Medal, as well as Green Portrait Award, Silver Award, Greening Effect in 2000. The museum was opened to the public on 25th of July in 2000, which brought a new page to the history of the Le Yuemun Fort.
I think it's really cool because you got to see the different aspects of Hong Kong's history and how the culture is preserved. I also think that the items that they have here for display are really cool because they're preserved really well and they kind of reflect on our history.
Yeah, I think it's really well done. You know, all the locations and the tools and everything are kept intact, and I can sort of picture the battle as it is. You know, I can see everything where it is. It's not in just a single building, so I think that's really good.
Yeah, I have to agree with these guys. The preservation of everything here and all the artifacts is pretty good and pretty impressive, and I think they've done a really good job.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. How does the site look like? How do you feel about it?
I really like this place because it's very convenient. It's right in the city, but when you're here, you have the feeling you're like somewhere far outside. It's so calm, and you hear the birds everywhere. And I mainly come here to study because it's so super convenient to have Wi-Fi everywhere, and most of the time it's really silent, and you can.
So it's a very good place.
I really like it.
Okay, and so we would like know more about it. Do you think this site is preserved? Because here is once a heritage.
Yeah.
But do you think it's preserved or not?
You mean it should stay like it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay like it is, or you think the way it preserved it to be like that, like a park, is better rather than just leave it as a museum?
I think it's good to combine it. Like you have a museum and a park. So the ones who just want to come here to exercise, they have a place, and for tourists and people who would like to know more about the history of this place, they can also come here. So I think it's good to combine it.
Okay.
A declared monument is better preserved by the government as it is of historic significance. Due to its long history, tracing back to the past, it reflects the change in the society over the years. Furthermore, it also sheds light on the history of China and Hong Kong. The preservation of these sites are enabled by providing better care and keeping sustainability in mind. More funds are allocated to these sites to ensure sustainability. A not listed monument, on the other hand, is more susceptible to degradation due to improper management. Also, due to lack of sufficient funds, restoration work becomes difficult, adding to the woes of the non-listed sites. Since Kowloon Walled City Park is a preserved monument, one can see the reflections into the past as well as enjoy the site in the present. The proper management of the site is also visible from the well-kept aspects of the old city. The Hong Kong Museum of Coastal Defence, on the other hand, is a Grade 2 listed site. Owing to this fact, as well as it being a museum, it is well preserved, which can be seen from the batteries and the weaponry on display. Hence, this does make a huge difference in terms of sustainability, as can be seen from the striking contrasts between the two sites and other four sites such as Devil's Peak.
Kowloon Walled City has turned it into a park which is of open access and achieved sustainable development. Present new elements are added to the past history. We can know about the history as well as having leisure entertainment at the same time. The preservation work is also good as reflected from the comments and photos.
The Hong Kong Museum of Coastal Defence has turned into a museum which is also of open access, such that visitors can come to observe the traditional heritage site with the guide tour. Description can also be made for a clear illustration of the history. It is conformed to the principle of sustainable development and can be well conserved in the long run.
Yes, these models could work for Devil's Peak and other sites. The turning of Kowloon Walled City into a park could be used as an example and be turned into the practice for the Devil's Peak. Since the place is accessible by the public, adapting a model such as this would successfully attract visitors. Furthermore, site management issues would also be resolved with the help of funds from the government. In conclusion, the government can use the tools at its disposition to protect heritage sites. This will shed some light on past history for the present and the future generations.